You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
Time to sharpen those swords. You're listening to Sabres Semantics, a hard-hitting interview and discussion show featuring players, alumni, media, and all others who have or still cover the NHL's Buffalo Sabres. With interesting stories from the past and current objective analysis, this show is sure to provide an entertaining and unique perspective for both Sabres and hockey fans alike.
Oh, brother, we are not worthy!
Exclusively on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Now, here's your host of Sabres Semantics, Brandon Caputo.
Welcome into another episode of Sabres Semantics right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Proudly brought to you by J&O Flooring. If you think you get a better deal anywhere else, you don't know Jack. Contact our Niagara Falls location with your quality flooring project today at J&O Flooring, the proud show sponsor of Sabres Semantics. Brandon Caputo and Austin Broad are with you to break down the last couple of weeks of the Sabres' recent games, as well as look ahead to what's to come for the team to finish out the month of January. On our last show, we talked a lot about this was a very winnable stretch for the Sabres with a lot of winnable games, and we'll get into that as well. We'll get into what the lines look like, what the lineup looks like, and we'll see if Austin has an analytic for us this week. But with that said, guys, thank you to those watching today on YouTube in the video form. So if you're enjoying the video version of the podcast, make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, and smash that bell for all updates on video versions of our podcast that get released here on the network. And thank you to those today listening in on-demand audio on your favorite audio platform. You can also follow the podcast on X at Sabres Semantics. We're trying to post a little bit more on there, especially about our shows, and we also post Twitter polls for our shows on there as well if you want to join in on the conversation. So with that said, Austin, let's quickly just go ahead and talk about the recent games for the Sabres, because on our last episode, they still had not won back-to-back games since the end of October. Well, they finally decided to break that streak. That came to an end when they beat Pittsburgh and Montreal back-to-back. Then the 5-2 loss to the Seattle Kraken, a 5-3 win against the Ottawa Senators after a horrible loss to open up 2024 against them, and then a 1-0 loss against the Canucks, which I know you were at as well, and the 3-0 win against the lonely San Jose Sharks. So putting all that into one, Austin, what's been your little synopsis of what the Sabres have been as of late?
I mean, better. Obviously, much better. You like you said, they got the back-to-back wins out of the way, which was big. I think realistically, maybe aside from the Seattle game, every result has kind of been what I expected. And even in the Seattle game, I know the moral victories are nothing for this team. Like, we're far past that. But I guess if you could take anything away from Seattle, the team played well. Levi did not. Joey Decord, got to give him a lot of credit. He's been playing well this year, and he really kept Seattle in that game to a point where once the lead got too far to hand, Buffalo kind of just they looked defeated, and they let the game get away from themselves there. But all in all, I mean, you've beaten the teams that you should beat. And I think, Vancouver, they're one of the best teams in the league right now. So losing 1-0 is frustrating because I think Buffalo opened up that game really strong. Demko made some big saves early. And then, just when you can't score, you can't score. So all in all, 2024 has been about what I expected. But with the way this month has been laid out, like we talked about in the first pod that we did this year, this is a month where the Sabres can kind of climb their way back in. And so far, I wish that Seattle loss would have been a little bit different, but it's gone about as I expected from the Sabres, which is good, but also you can't give them too much credit because we talked about how, not soft, but how this is an easier stretch in their schedule.
Yeah, I mean, you have San Jose and Chicago back-to-back, which are arguably, American Hockey League rosters at this point with the way that those teams are playing, especially Chicago without Connor Bedard.
Exactly.
Tonight in the lineup, or without him in the lineup tonight. That's going to be a TNT game, by the way. Will not be on Fubo TV. So I'm sure the schedule makers were not happy that Connor Bedard went out. I'm sure they're going to have a nice graphic of the All-Star Jason Dickinson on the screen tonight. But regardless of that, I mean, we talked about how important this stretch was for them to kind of get back in the playoff picture in the Eastern Conference, if there was any sense of that. You know, I got the standings up on the screen right now, Austin. Like, they're second last in the conference, and they've got a lot of teams to hurdle here. But I guess if there's any moral victories, is that there's still 3 months to go here.
Yeah, like I said, this stretch was key for them, and that's why I wish the Seattle game kind of would have been a little bit different, because that 2 more points in the standings would be very, very beneficial to the Sabres. But unfortunately, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. But like you just said, you have Chicago coming up. Tampa Bay is a massive, massive swing game, because not only are they a divisional opponent, but right now they are the team that is tied with Detroit in the wild card. So you find a way to beat Chicago, that gets you to 44 points. And then if you find a way to beat Tampa, that gets you to 46, and also doesn't allow Tampa Bay to pull further away from you. So like the next 2 games, massive. And then after that, you got the California road trip. No disrespect to San Jose and Anaheim. Those 2 teams are on the weaker side. And then you got LA sandwiched in there. But I think at the beginning of the month, when you look at the schedule of this month, I think LA was one of the games that you chalked up for a Sabres loss anyway. So you find a way, you got to go 3-1-1 in your next 5 to close out this month to give yourself any sort of hope. If they do go 3-1-1, could be looking at a different result, because the schedule, an NHL schedule is an NHL schedule. Don't get me wrong. You got to play each game in and game out, but there are a little bit more tougher stretches here and there. But even the month of February, there's a couple, there's some winnable games in there. So you can really set the tone by finishing this month out strong. We just have to see if this roster can do it, because people can talk about his age, people can talk about his contract and all this stuff. Without Jeff Skinner in this lineup, the team does look like they struggled to create some quality chances. I know Tage was phenomenal against Ottawa. Got to see more of that from him. He's starting to look more and more like himself, but that's good. But you've got to get Skinner back, and hopefully it's sooner than later, because he brings something to this lineup that they desperately lack when he's gone. I don't know what it is. They obviously struggle without Tage and without Tuck and all that stuff, because they're good players. But with Skinner, it just seems like it's more than just on the ice that they're missing, whether it's the energy or the rat mentality that he brings, because he is a pain in the butt. Like, I don't know. They need him back, because without him, I don't know. I feel like he's the type of player that they're going to need to help spark them going forward. But we just laid it out. Easy stretch coming up. I don't know about you, but I think 3-1-1 is worst case that they can do to keep the season alive.
Yeah, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, and I'm glad you segued into Skinner, because I kind of wanted to touch up on the injury situation. Since our last recording, Jeff Skinner, has gone out with an upper body injury. Again, with the Sabres, you never know. That could be 2 days or 2 months. But regardless of that, as you mentioned, they've sorely missed him on that, left wing 1 spot, and especially on the power play as well, just because of the time and space he creates for other players. At the time of recording this, Matthias Samuelsson, don't know if he is or is not going to be at the morning skate this morning. So, he's also a guy that went out. And even Rasmus Dahlin, took that headshot from JT Miller. Luckily, he's been okay, but that really looked like a play that, could have been a concussion protocol for sure for Dahlin. And again, I don't know if you wanted to touch up on that, but regardless, the Sabres, 2 big injuries right now. You mentioned Tage is starting to get back to the Tage Thompson that we had expected from the last couple of years, and Rasmus Dahlin is luckily okay after that. So, Skinner and Samuelsson right now, the only guys really out of the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, it's a relatively healthy, which is good. And on the back end, I mean, I know it's probably not ideal for Henry Jokiharju, but when he's the guy that steps in, I mean, I don't think they're missing that much. No disrespect to Samuelsson. I think he's a very big member of this top 6. He's an NHL defenseman that they rely on heavily, but it obviously makes the team feel a little bit better knowing that Jokiharju can fill in, and him and Dahlin do have some success together. And then Ryan Johnson, who has been playing well when he gets in the lineup. So yeah, it hurts. The Skinner one to me is obviously, like I just touched on it, is the big one, but relatively I guess for this season speaking, Sabres are kind of healthy. They're only missing 2 guys, like you just mentioned, so health can't really be their issue here. So time to hunker down and start getting results because let's face it, without results, the pressure on Adams and Granato is only going to keep mounting. And I think there's a lot of pressure on them already as it is, and there should be.
And another guy that just came back into the lineup recently is Jack Quinn. He's played 12 games, 4 goals. I actually spoke to him in the game that I covered against the Seattle Kraken. If you guys want to go and check out that article on Jack Quinn, it's live on armchairgmsports.com from my chat with Jack Quinn about being back in the lineup and also about a little bit about his OHL career with the Ottawa 67s and his journey getting to the National Hockey League. But regardless of that, Jack Quinn, you know, when I talked to him, it seemed like he was excited. He didn't exactly say that the coaching staff was looking for anything from him other than getting back up to speed and getting his consistency. I think it was Lance Lasowski asked Don Granato in the morning skate about what makes Jack Quinn so good, having him back in the lineup, and Don Granato said that we just need him back because he's such brings another dynamic to our team, and the thing he kept honing in on was about the attack and the way that Jack Quinn attacks the net. He's always got an attack mentality, and wherever he is on the ice, he wants to attack the net and go to the front of the net. So I guess in a way that having somebody like Jack Quinn back, just not only for the lineup structure, but also in the way that he plays and the way that the coaching staff, wants the way that he plays to rub off on everybody else, even as a young 22-year-old.
Yeah, no, the impact that he's made on this team since rejoining has been, noticeable. Noticeable is the easiest way to describe it. Obviously, there's been a few not missteps, but you know what I mean? Like he hasn't. You can tell that he is looking more like himself, but he still has another year to give. But that's also expected. He tore his Achilles. But the fact that he has 7 points in 12 games since joining this team, since he came back, is massive. He makes an impact, on the power play, filling in right there when Skinner has been out, which, that power play goal that Tuch scored against the Sharks was awesome. Quinn made a great pass to the bumper spot, which the Sabres don't normally use. Quinn made a great pass to Tuch there, who blasted it home. Like, just small plays like that. You can see that Cousins, Peterka, Quinn line, the kid line, as everyone calls it, didn't really miss a beat. They have a few shifts here and there where they get hemmed in their own zone, but that's expected when, the Sabres play the system that they play and they're a younger line. The impact that his role on this team and what he means to this team, I guess, was pretty much underestimated by almost everybody, because I knew everyone knew. Like, we all knew it was going to be a loss when he was out. I don't think anyone expected, like him to mean as much to this team as he actually does mean, because he has been very, very good. He's going to get back to, he's already producing at a really strong rate. So, like, saying he's got to still ramp himself up might not really be accurate, because I think he's playing really well. Just, I've never torn my Achilles. I can imagine that, skating and getting up to the game speed might have been a quick adjustment for him. He looks like he's settled in really nicely, and Cousins, Peterka, and him are a legitimate second line for the Sabres, which is good, because when healthy, like when Skinner gets back and you jump middle stat down to that third line with Greenway and Benson, I think you have a legitimate top 9 that can compete on a night in and night out basis when they're clicking, which is a good thing. And I think the Sabres desperately need that. So awesome for Jack Quinn. One of my favorite players on this team to cheer for. I just love the way that he plays. Strong two-way player, has a great shot, has an ability to just elevate people around him, and fits in seamlessly with that line, which is good, because the Sabres desperately need scoring threats on every line.
Yeah, they definitely do. And when they can get that scoring even from the fourth line in the game that I went to against Seattle, like, they were creating some chances. Gergensen's was doing well on the forecheck. You had Eric Robinson, who had basically a breakaway in tight and was stopped, and Krebs drew a penalty to give them a chance. So, like, I don't know if you can even ask more from the fourth line. Obviously, like, some goal production, but their job isn't really to even create goals. It's just to get good offensive zone shifts and outwork the opponent, get the opponent tired, and continue to just build the momentum for when they roll back through their top lines. But I've liked what I've seen from the fourth line, even though maybe the goal production isn't there.
Yeah, no, I think the fourth line's been good. It'll be interesting to see what it kind of looks like when they're fully healthy. It kind of looked like Robinson maybe was the odd man out, which is still a little weird because they did trade for him, etc., all that stuff. But yeah, you can still see that Krebs, Oposo, Girgensons, Robinson, any combination of those four, they play their roles and they play them well, which is all you can really ask. I still think that there's more to give from that line, like you said there, but realistically, as long as that line isn't getting you hammered and killed in your own zone, I think you're happy and you call it a win either way. It'll just be interesting to see when, like, we've talked about it before, but it just feels like Adams is going to have to make a move. I don't know what it's going to be, because when Skinner's back, that means Robinson and Olofsson, you have 14 forwards. There's not enough room for all these guys, right? And realistically, we kind of just said Girgensons, Oposo, Krebs, and Robinson, they're all playing well. Olofsson was also playing well, and then he got taken out. So it's just weird. We finally we talked about it last episode, but push came to shove and Comrie got waived. Is someone going to get waived? Is there going to be a trade? I don't know. But at least right now, the fourth line isn't killing you. And believe it or not, I really like what I've seen from Peyton Krebs, and people get mad at me all the time. Give him a shot. I was surprised. I think they corrected it last game, but in the Vancouver game, and I think even the game before that, they had Greenway playing third line center. Greenway's not a center. I don't know why you just don't give Krebs a shot. I don't know, but whatever. That's a small nitpick.
Yeah, we'll get into a little bit more of what should Adams do at the trade deadline in segment 2 today with our Twitter polls, but we can't go anywhere further, Austin, without talking about Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and what he's done as of late. I tweeted out yesterday that they said it on the MSG broadcast. He's only allowed 7 goals in his past 5 games, and he's 4-1 during that stretch. Again, there was a comment, they played the Sharks. I mean, I get it, but the Sharks can still score goals despite not winning many games. But I think the run that UPL is on right now kind of shows that if you can give him the runway of 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4 games and give Levi, the less pressure as the younger goalie, I think, Luukkonen is showing that he can round into, a solid fringe starter here for the Sabres, and he's really proven that he's taken a step in his development with this last little stretch of games here.
Yeah, and honestly, like, as weird as it sounds, it feels like a deja vu from earlier in the year when we talked about how Luukkonen, he won the starting job, in our opinion. I think he's won the starting job again. I just hope this time we can see him run with it, because it feels like, dating even back to last year, between the 3 goalies that they've had, Comrie, Luukkonen, and Levi, it feels like any time one of these 3 have won the job, the second the net's been handed to them, they have a stinker and hand the net right back. I'm hoping Luukkonen continues to run with this, because I really like the way that he played against San Jose. The Vancouver game, 1-0 game, I thought he played really well. The goal that got called back, like Besser's goal, I'm glad it was offsides, because I thought Luukkonen probably should stop that goal in the Vancouver game. But again, very small nitpick. He's been very good, and I think I liked before that they were alternating back-to-back, but after the Levi clunker in Seattle, Luukkonen responding with a strong game, give him a little run here. The schedule isn't really all that demanding until the California trip where you have to play back-to-back, so let Luukkonen play against Chicago, and then you have 2 days rest. You play Saturday afternoon. Give Luukkonen the net in both games, unless he literally throws out a clunker tomorrow.
Yeah, and what have you seen from Levi? Obviously, he's only played or started a couple of games here, but for a guy that they sent down to Rochester and then had to immediately call back up because Luukkonen got hurt and Comrie, they were expecting their first child, and then they ended up waiving Comrie, and it's just been like a revolving door for Devin Levi, and he hasn't really. I feel like he hasn't had a refined role as far as, okay, you're going to be the backup goalie, or you're going to be the starting goalie, you're going to be the starting goalie in Rochester. I feel like this whole year he's just been kind of thrown around into different situations, and we don't really have an outlined, clear-cut role of what he is. And I think now with the way Luukkonen is playing and staying healthy, that, okay, you're going to be the backup goalie to start here, and you're going to get one game a week to kind of get your feet wet in this league like he most likely should have from the start.
Yeah, I think him being a backup right now is really good for him. I think the thing with Levi is that game against Montreal. You see it. He is a very talented player. He's going to be a very good goalie. Unfortunately, when you're running a 21-year-old goalie, there's going to be a clunker here and there. Unfortunately for the Sabres, they put themselves into a situation where expectations are the playoffs, where you sadly can't afford those clunkers. So I think, not that the organization failed Levi, because I don't think that, but I do think that earlier in the year when the 3 goalies was clearly not working and the consistency wasn't there with Levi. I like that they sent him down to Rochester. I think maybe they anticipated him staying down there a lot longer, but like you said, injuries were kind of a thing. They had to call him back up. He played well. Again, when your goalie's playing well, you're in this position where you're saying this is a playoff season. You got to ride the hot hand. I get it. But at the same time, when you put all the pressure at the feet of a 21-year-old kid, no matter who that kid is, there's going to be some down moments. In any normal year, we're okay with those down moments, right? Because that's what a young goalie is. But given all the circumstances that have gone into this season and the expectations that were there, just feels like maybe you could have had a contingency plan in place. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. So I think him being the backup is good because there's still those games where he plays really well. Again, the Seattle game, not good. There was no excuse for that. He was not good. But you see it, the Montreal game, he's had many games this year where he's played so good. So I think, like you just said, give him, if you're playing 3 games in a week, give him 1. Let Luukkonen run it out. And hopefully Luukkonen plays well enough where they're not panicking and trying to throw Levi in to a run of 5 games in 7 days or whatever. But yeah, I think like you just said, clearly establishing these roles right now and just going to the guys and saying, hey, Luukkonen, you're the starter right now. Levi, you're the backup, but we're going to play you. I think is the best thing for both of them because they're young kids. They're going to be able to play a lot, but Luukkonen's going to need a break every now and then. And as long as Levi is ready and is confident, to me, that's what matters. I'm not a goalie, never played goalie in my life, but when you're confident, I'm guessing it helps you play a lot better. So if you can keep both of their confidences high, I think you have the best possible scenario there. So helps that the schedule hasn't exactly been the most difficult, but hey, that's a confidence builder. That's what goalies need. Hopefully this time the scenario that they've envisioned for themselves works out.
Yeah, let's see if that plan goes to what they think there with head coach Don Granato and general manager Kevin Adams. But we're going to get to more of that in our second segment today with our Twitter polls as well. We'll talk about the upcoming games. We'll get to the lines as well. The line shakeup for the Sabres with Jeff Skinner out and, just looking ahead to what's to come here the rest of January. So stay right here. We'll be right back on another episode of Sabres Semantics, proudly brought to you by J&L Flooring, right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network.
Last year, more homes canceled cable TV than ever before. Why? It's just too expensive. For half the price of cable, you can get Fubo TV and watch the live sports and TV you love. Try free at FuboTV.com.
J&L Flooring is Niagara's specialty flooring and design company. They take great pride and provide elite customer service and support. With a beautiful showroom, great pricing, and a wide variety of truly unique products, J&L Flooring is your specialty flooring and decor boutique shop. All of their products are environmentally friendly and responsibly produced so you can feel good about your flooring choices. Their goal is to build authentic relationships based on honesty and integrity that they foster with respect and authenticity. Offering a unique and wide range of quality products presented by a knowledgeable and patient team, they simplify the process to make your life easier and to make your home more beautiful. Visit them at 4424 Montrose Road in Niagara Falls or find out more at jnlflooring.com. If you think you can get a better deal anywhere else, you don't know Jack at J&L Flooring. In the Niagara region, Global Pet Foods is your destination for premium pet nutrition and caring expertise. Whether you've welcomed a new furry family member or need advice on top quality nutrition, their dedicated staff is ready to help. Discover why Global Pet Foods' lesser-known premium brands outshine the big corporate names. Their team's passion ensures your pet's health and vitality. Check out one of their locations today, 3643 Portage Road in Niagara Falls, 160 Highway 20 in Font Hill, or 400 Scott Street and 344 Glendale Avenue in St. Catharines. Global Pet Foods, where premium brands and caring staff make the difference.
Niagara Golf Lounge features 2 state-of-the-art indoor golf simulators, allowing you to play some of the world's best courses all year round. The perfect place to indulge all season long. Don't worry about getting thirsty while you play around with your friends. Their fully stocked bar offers a wide selection of drinks, appetizers, and a variety of meals are also available to enjoy before, during, or after you play. Grab a seat next to the fire in their comfortable sports lounge. Didn't bring your clubs? No problem. They have partnered with TaylorMade to offer you the best rental clubs. You won't want to miss their exclusive NFL and NHL giveaways for the Buffalo Sabres and Buffalo Bills. Located in the Best Western Plus Cairncroft Hotel, 6400 Lundy's Lane in Niagara Falls. Visit NiagaraGolfVacations.com to learn more and to reserve your golf bay today. The Niagara Golf Lounge, Niagara's home for golf and sport all year round.
Are you looking to hire? Let the Niagara Employment Help Center save you valuable time and money by making your hiring process easier. Their services include free job postings in-house and on their website, fill job vacancies quickly and efficiently, access to a bank of potential employees, reduce employment costs, and financial incentives may be available to offset the cost of new hire training. Check out the website at ehc.on.ca or call 905-358-0021 for more information. The Niagara Employment Help Center, helping people find work since 1983.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network, the Niagara region's best local source for North American sports podcasting coverage. By sports fans, for sports fans.
Hey, hey, here we go, it's hockey night in Buffalo. Hey, hey, here we go, the boys in blue, white and gold. Hey, hey, here we go, make some noise, get in the zone. All for one and one for all, let's hear you from your heart and soul.
Welcome back to part 2 of today's Sabres Semantics episode. Brandon Caputo and Austin Broder back with you, discussing the midpoint of January for the Buffalo Sabres and where they are at as far as in the standings. So, guys, make sure if you're enjoying the content, make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, and smash that bell for all updates on video versions of our podcast that get released here on the network. And thank you to those today listening in on-demand audio. Also, go and check out one of our great sponsors, the Niagara Golf Lounge. They're giving away Sabres tickets for the rest of the season for all home games. So all you got to do is go head over to the Niagara Golf Lounge, located in the Best Western Cairncroft Hotel in Niagara Falls. Play around on their golf simulator, have a drink, and spend $40, and you're instantly going to be entered into a giveaway for Sabres tickets. So go and check them out there. And they also show Sabres games on the television as well. So if you want to go play some golf, have a beer, have something to eat, and watch a Sabres game, the Niagara Golf Lounge has you covered for that. So with that said, we're going to get to our Austin's Analytics segment today, and that is, as always, is brought to you by the Niagara Denture Clinic, creating natural smiles in Niagara for 25 years. If you forgot to bring your mouth guard on the ice or lost a chiclet, contact your licensed team at Denture Professionals in Niagara Falls to get your smile back on track. Austin, what do you got for us this week with your analytic?
And so I kind of talked about how they've been, again, maybe the schedule has been part of it, but they've been a better team in 2024. Since the new year flipped over, like I said, they have that. They've won 4 games. And some of the players that are making a big impact are not necessarily ones that get a lot of credit. I mean, Zemgus Girgensson is their best player in terms of expected goals percentage. He's leads the team since January 1st, which is pretty good for him. He's the 4th liner. That's what he does. Ryan Johnson is 2nd. Peyton Krebs is 3rd. And really my analytic is, so the 4th line and a rookie defenseman are your top 2. Since the new year flipped over, can you guess who the worst player in terms of expected goals for percentages?
Forward or D?
I feel like if I tell you, you'll get it. So I don't want to give you that hint.
Eric Johnson?
Hey, look at you. Attaboy.
There we go.
Yeah, he is the worst on the team by far. So this goes to show, as much as I loved the Eric Johnson signing at the beginning, he's not working out. Keep Ryan Johnson in the lineup. Find a way to keep Henry Jokiharju in the lineup. And if you have to tell Eric Johnson you got to sit every now and then, I think it goes back to the theme that I've been saying is Adams is going to have these tough conversations. Eric Johnson's not part of your long-term future. He's actively hurting your team. It is okay to sit down, have that tough conversation with him, and just tell him to take a step back for a bit. I'm not saying you have to scratch him every game for the rest of the year because I do like some of the stuff that he brings, but he's just not – he hasn't worked out, and that's fine. He's an older vet that they expected to play. They've tried playing him with Power a couple times this year, and I think, his play style might fit Power correctly, but I think we're just at a point where Eric Johnson is just – the game has passed him by, and he might be your 7th defenseman, and I think the team has to admit that, and if it pisses him off, I think you have to just be okay with that. You have to live with it. because he is not working out. The other one, Connor Clifton, hasn't been nearly as good as Buffalo anticipated him, but I think he's been really lumped in with Eric Johnson a little bit unfairly because I like Clifton's play the last little while. Sure, he's chaotic. Sure, it's a lot of high event stuff, but you know what? We embrace high event Sabres hockey in my house because that's the hockey that we liked watching last year, and we need more of that hockey. The good, the bad, whatever. Eric Johnson, it's mostly just bad. So that's my analytic is Eric Johnson expected goals is the worst on the team since the new year. Maybe it's time to just admit, hey, didn't work out. You're our seventh defenseman now. Everyone just move on. If it pisses him off and he wants out, I don't know if you'll get anything for him, but try and work on that move.
Does Colorado need a defenseman? Do they need him back?
Yeah, sure. Send him back there.
I mean, he got a standing ovation. It was like the return of like Wayne Gretzky to Colorado when Eric Johnson was there. So I'm sure they'd welcome him back.
In theory, I loved the signing of Eric Johnson. And just whatever reason, it's not working. Also, that Darlene quote where he said he just can't be jumping up into the rush willy-nilly anymore, that broke my heart because, yes, you can. That's what makes you you. Whoever's telling you you can't do that should be fired. If it's Don Granado, sorry. I don't need Ralph Kruger 2.0 here.
Wow, you actually brought up his name. That's a first.
Yeah. Because that pissed me off.
Okay, well, let's move on here to the Twitter polls because I know you really want to discuss, Kevin Adams and what he's going to do hopefully in February's trade deadline. Again, follow us at Sabres Semantics on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and we post these polls for every single episode here to get your reaction to that. And our Sabres polls today are brought to you by the Niagara Employment Help Center, helping people find work in Niagara since 1983. Check out their up-to-date job board at ehc.on.ca to find your next work opportunity today. So the first poll, it was kind of a two-parter, was do you see GM Kevin Adams trying to make a deal to help the Sabres at the deadline? Yes, they will go get someone, or no, they will stay put. No, they will stay put, 72.7%. And Austin, I know that's not the answer that you had wanted when you had originally come up with this poll, but what's your reaction to it anyway?
That's the answer that this team has pretty much just, like, they brought this on themselves. The fans don't think a move is coming because it's been this team's MO. I think last year, I guess Jordan Greenway was a little bit of a surprise move for the Sabres, and maybe there's another little move like that coming. But yeah, I don't know. I agree with most of the fans. They've given me no reason to think that they're going to make a move to help the team this year. So I don't blame the poll for going that way at all. Do I think Adams is completely, unaware of the pressure that's now building up on him? I like to think he's not. I like to think he has a little bit more self-awareness than that because I do think he's a smart guy and a relatively good general manager. But I don't know. Do you see any? Doesn't it have to be a big move? Do you see any impactful move? So that's like top 9 forward, top 4 defenseman. Do you see that coming? Because I don't.
I see like
or even a goalie, which I don't see coming either.
I can see a hot and ready Wayne Simmons for a 5th round pick deal coming at the deadline, like we saw 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's basically a nothing move, which is fine. That's again, unfortunately, right now that's Adams' reputation, where he's not a big trade guy. He's going to be the one that has to shift that narrative about him. But right now, yeah, that's the reputation that he's kind of built himself. And locking up your core was easy. Filling your core, filling around them, has clearly not been easy for him. We'll see if anything comes up. There hasn't really been all that many super, super interesting names on the market. I know it feels like goalies are kind of the hottest thing out there right now. I think Elvis Merzlikins, Jacob Markstrom, there's been some not weird, but I think Kevin Weeks hinted at a Jacob Markstrom trade, and nothing's ever happened for that since. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't see the Sabres doing that because Adams was so adamant on his goalies being he was okay with it. I think if he trades ukko-pekka for a veteran goalie, he has to kind of admit that he was wrong. I don't know if he's going to do that, especially not in season.
Plus, Calgary's been playing better. I mean, Calgary has kind of creep back into the playoff picture. So, are they really going to sell Elias Lindholm and Jacob Markstrom while they're playing well? Also, Markstrom's day to day right now, so who knows what his status is.
I saw the day to day thing. I don't think they'll sell Markstrom, I think they have to sell Lindholm. I don't know if they'll sell Markstrom. I think they have to because their whole MO was, if you don't want to be here, we're not going to let you walk for nothing. I think they'll have to sell Lindholm. But Markstrom, I don't know. other than that, like I don't know. Like I feel like I don't know. I feel like the Sabres. It just seems like everything Kevin Adams has said has just been we're content. This group can get it done. We have faith in the guys. So I feel like until a move is made, I'm not going to believe one's coming because the GM has given us no reason. So that's why I kind of expected the poll to go that way. But you never know when you throw stuff out on the old Twitter/X, whatever the heck it's called nowadays.
Yeah, hey, they actually one player did get moved. Matt Savoy got moved, but just wasn't a Sabres move.
Yeah,
but he
it
got
was a
moved
WHO move
from Wenatchee to Moose Jaw. So I don't know if that counts for a Kevin Adams trade. Obviously, it doesn't. But sarcastically, Sabres player did get traded just for his WHL team. But I think if you're like you mentioned about Kevin Adams, like you're gonna have to eventually move some of these prospects. They're not gonna be able to have all these top end prospects, and they have them. It's great, but you got to start doing. I'm not saying go completely what Tampa did and trade every single prospect that you have for the next 4 years to leave yourself a depleted lineup of, Tanner Janose of the world. But like you've got to make some strategic moves here. And kind of going into the second part of the poll is if you voted yes in the above poll, what position would you like the Sabres GM Kevin Adams to target? A forward, a defenseman, or a goaltender? A defenseman won this at 50%. Second place was a goaltender at 37.5. Forward 12.5. I think people are pretty content with, when everybody's in the lineup. This forward group, is pretty solid. So you're nodding your head, so I'm sure you agree.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's exactly where my mentality lays too, is defense, goalie, forward. Like you said, I think when the forwards are fully healthy, I am pretty content with the group. Really, I guess it all depends on what your opinion of the forward group that they've kind of built together is, but I really do. Like I said, I think when they're healthy, their top nine is really, really good. I think they could use a true top four defenseman to go along with Dahlin and Power. I like Matthias Samuelsson a lot. I think he's better served as a third pair defenseman. I think I've been saying that for the last little while on this pod. Yoki Haru, he feels like the odd man out.
Ryan Johnson.
So Ryan Johnson, I think, can be a top four, but even then, if you're not going to play Yoki Haru in the top four and you have Ryan Johnson, like that's only three. Like I don't think Clifton's a top four. I don't think Eric Johnson's a top four. I think I don't know. I don't have any players in mind, but if they can, this is the year where Adam should not be afraid of the quote unquote Jacob Chikrin trade, right? Like that type of defenseman, give up some of those you higher end pieces that you have to get a true steady top four defenseman to just round out Power, Dahlin, Ryan Johnson, whatever. Unless they're going to commit long term to Yoki Haru, but I don't think they are because I feel like they would have by now. So to me, that's where I'm at there. Goalie, like I said, I feel like there's a lot of names out there on the goalie market. I feel like the Sabres, if you admit that, you're also giving up ukko-pekka in a deal, right? Like you're not bringing in a Jacob Markstrom, an Elvis Merzlikins, insert name here, just to have another three-headed monster in net.
Yeah, or you're going to try to send Levi down.
Yeah, and you already have way too many goalies in the organization that any move to bring in a goalie, you'd have to subtract one. Like you have Tokarski, Devin Cooley, Eric Comrie all down there. You have Michael Hauser in the ECHL. You know what I mean? Like, there's just too many goalies in the organization. So if you trade for one, one's got to go. Clearly that would be ukko-pekka. Otherwise, the trade wouldn't really make any sense. Like you said, or you send Levi down. But no one's going to trade for Comrie. So to me, if you're bringing in a goalie's going out. The logical trip there is UPL. But he's your starter right now. So
yeah.
I don't know.
But would you say sorry about UPL real quick?
No.
His value has never been higher, I think, since he's been drafted. So do you think that might entice them to say, okay, his value's pretty high right now with the way that he's playing. We might not be able to get as much for him again than this stretch that he's been playing.
Yeah, no, like I said, I'm not opposed to going and get a veteran to pair with Levi. That just means, you just know whether UPL is a part of that trade or not, there's at least another corresponding move coming, right? Like say, I'm not saying I'm for this because I don't really have a strong opinion about either Merzlikins or Markstrom. I'd probably avoid both of them if I was a GM, but if that's a name you're throwing out there, like, are you sending UPL to Columbus? I don't know. Does Columbus even want Luukkonen? They have two really young, good goalie prospects of their own that they're playing right now, which is why Merzlikins has kind of forced his way out, right? Like, I know Carolina and New Jersey are in desperate need of goalies. So, like, do you maybe, if you acquire a starter, do you then call up one of those teams for Luukkonen and get a corresponding move there? I don't know. Maybe that's the route that they go there. But to me, yeah, I agree with that poll 100%. The priority should be, if they're making a move, it's a top 4D. Then maybe you look at the goalies, and then maybe look at the forwards, because I still have faith in this forward group. I guess if you don't have faith in this forward group, you have a different opinion. But I think for the most part, a lot of people do still have that faith in the forwards that they've assembled here.
Yeah, I look at New Jersey and Minnesota as two teams that have been very underwhelming with their goaltending. Now, whether Minnesota is going to make a move or not, obviously they got Fleury as the backup, and Gustafsson is now back. Would they want Luukkonen? Probably not. New Jersey's been a complete nightmare. Like Vanacek and Schmid were supposed to both be the guys at some point this year, and both of them have completely flopped to the point where they've called up Nico Dawes from the AHL, and now he's kind of taken over. They sent Schmid down to the AHL, who was so good for them in the playoffs last year, and Vanacek has not taken the net at all whatsoever. He has a good win-loss record, but that's because New Jersey at the beginning of the year, with the way Jack Hughes was playing, before Dougie Hamilton got hurt, they were an offensive juggernaut. So I would not want any of those goaltenders back if we're trading Luukkonen to New Jersey. I would not want Vanacek. I would not want Akira Schmid. I think that makes your team worse, to be honest. I'd rather just continue to ride with Luukkonen unless New Jersey was offering Alexander Holtz or somebody. But even then, that hurts they're not trying to trade for a forward. They'd want a D, and I don't think New Jersey's in a position to trade a young D right now.
And that's my whole point. Whereas if you're trading Luukkonen, he's either going to the team that you're trading, or you have to work another move there. So to me, that's why goaltender, maybe it should be at the top of their priority list, but to me, that's why it's not, because again, like I said, it just trades have not necessarily been Adams' go-to route for building this team. I know obviously there was the Eichel trade and things like that, but that was kind of a special circumstance. He usually prefers to internally grow. He banked on internal growth this year. It's kind of flatlined a little bit. I know that the team was pretty much in the same spot last year through this many games as they are this year, blah, blah, blah. I know all that, but it hasn't exactly worked out. So, I don't know. To me, I'm with you. I'd rather gamble on Luukkonen and Levi for the rest of the year, because Luukkonen has shown some flashes here and there. Shore up that top 4D. Let the forwards play it the way they're used to playing. Have a strong defense group. Maybe, chop out the weak link that I hinted at earlier in this podcast, and just see what happens there. But I don't know. As much as I agree with the polls, I don't know. Like I said, until Adams actually makes a move, and that's kind of just been the Sabres' MO, is until a move is actually made, you don't really know what the Sabres are up to.
Yeah, you never really know, because sometimes they make a trade out of nowhere to left field, and you're like, wow, they didn't even figure that they were negotiating. But I guess that's the way they like to keep it under wraps. But we'll move on to the forward group real quick, and the lines and how it shakes out again. The time of recording this could be different from the morning skate, but this is prior to the morning skate. And Jeff Skinner's spot has been Casey Middlestat, and he's kind of been a guy that, despite leading the team in points, he's kind of been their ultimate utility man. He's moved up and down the lineup. He's played center. He's played wing. And you got to be impressed with what the Sabres have, asked from him and what he's delivered. Obviously, he's in a contract year, so we'll see what happens with that. But he's shown his versatility, that he can go up and down the top six and play at center when Tage was out. Now he's up on the top line left wing while Skinner's out. And he's setting up some plays. He set up, one of the goals the other day. So, what have you seen from Middlestat as he continues to, try to earn a solid contract?
Yeah, I think it's not really a stretch to say he's been their best 5-on-5 forward. He honestly might be their best 5-on-5 player this year. The versatility has been great. He's really, really, really good along the wall and with the puck on his stick, which is good. That's what you want. He's kind of turning into the player that they drafted when they took him as high as they did back in his draft year, so that's good. Really like Middlestat, like watching him play. I think he fits well with Thompson and Tuck, but I hinted at earlier in the episode, I think I'd rather see him at center. I'd rather, Granato's solution was Greenway, you play third line center. I like the switch that he made in the San Jose game when he gave Benson a run on the top line on that spot, and then he put Middlestat back at center. To me, that is the better off move. We'll see what the lines are. Like you said, this is before the morning skate. We're not exactly sure what the lineup's going to look like. I prefer Middlestat at center, but he has shown he can do everything for this team. He deserves a ton of credit. He's been their biggest bright spot this year, in my opinion.
And it's Chicago, man. They're running out an American Hockey League lineup.
With no Bedard. Yeah, with no Bedard. Chicago with Bedard, anything can happen. He's that good of a player. Chicago with no Bedard, no excuse.
It's a wrap. I'm sorry.
No excuse.
So Middlestat, Thompson, Tuck has been the top line. Second line, Peterka, Cousins, and Jack Quinn since he's been back. And obviously, we talked about Peterka, on this podcast all season long about, how he's taken a step forward and been a real offensive threat in that top six. But having Jack Quinn there, especially with Jeff Skinner out, really helps things because without him, then they'd really have a big hole there. You'd have to ask a lot from Benson moving up, but Cousins is starting to come around with his production a little bit. Again, he's not putting up the numbers that he did last year, and we kind of talked about, maybe it was unrealistic to expect him to take another step from what that was last year just because the team isn't scoring, isn't as big of an offensive threat as they were last year. But what have you seen from the second line lately?
Yeah, I like that. The kid line, they're not. I don't think they're quite back to the level that they were at last year because I think you're still, like you said, Cousins' production has started to get where it needs to be. He's playing a lot better. His underlyings look a lot better. Just needs to start getting some luck going his way. But good second line. Once everyone's back to their full strength and their chemistry, you see it every night. Their chemistry is evident. Just you need to stop being snake bit, especially number 24. It's not good when Jack Quinn's only played 12 games and he's like 3 goals behind you in production, but the production is obviously the most important thing, but that'll start coming as this line starts playing that good because we saw it last year. We're seeing the chemistry this year. Whether you call them your second or your third line, I call them the second line because in my opinion that is the second line. Just like pure play style alone. We'll get into that third line in a minute, but they're so fun to watch. When they're clicking, they are the most fun. They might not be the best line when they're clicking, but they're the most fun to watch because the three of them seem to know where each other are. Like it's really fun to watch, and they bring out the best in each other. We saw it in the AHL with Quinn and Peterka. The fact that they were able to carry that over to the NHL almost seamlessly is really impressive, and I'm very, very glad that we get to see it in Buffalo because they are a lot of fun, and they are two very, very good players. And then you throw in Cousins, and it just seems to be a very well-constructed line. So kudos whoever decided to try that because it's been very, very good for them ever since.
Yeah, and they've had really good spurts too. Like even in that Seattle game, they had a shift where they just hemmed Seattle in their own end and got 3 or 4 great opportunities, didn't score on them. But that line, like you mentioned, definitely the eyeball test. They are exciting to watch, that's for sure. The third line right now, Benson, Greenway, and Eric Robinson. So, again, a little bit of a mix and match there, but obviously Benson has shown that he can play up and down the lineup even as an 18-year-old, and he's so shifty and flashy in the way that he plays. But Greenway at center and Robinson, thoughts on that?
Yeah, like I said, I really like Greenway and Benson as a duo, and even with Robinson, like I think they all play a nice forechecking game, which really weird to say because like Benson's like 5'11", 170 pounds, or wherever he is, but he is a very good forecheck on the wall player. That's why he fits well with a guy like Greenway. Benson is one of their best guys underneath the goal line, like below the opposing goal line. He gets the puck. He immediately knows where to find those passing lanes. He's extremely talented. I like Robinson, really good north-south player, a lot of speed. You've seen him generate a couple of breakaways here and there. Doesn't necessarily have the best scoring touch, but again, when we're talking about a guy who's usually a fourth liner, you don't expect him to have that scoring touch. But I like what he's brought to the lineup. Like I said, my biggest gripe is I don't need to see Greenway at center. He's not a center. He's a winger. He's very good. He's one of the more underappreciated players, I think, in this lineup because he plays his role well and he's very effective. He made a big block at the end of the game before, I forget what game it was, but the Cousins empty netter. Greenway made a huge block. He does a lot of things well that don't necessarily show up on the score sheet, but at the same time, it's like him, Middlestat, and Benson, that line was working so well together. I know injuries happened, but to me, I didn't need to see that line broken up. I also, again, that's where I said, like, if you were going to move Middlestat up, just try Krebs at center and just go Krebs, Greenway, Benson, because I still think that line could have worked together too because Krebs also has that forechecking style of play. I didn't necessarily need to see Greenway thrown into a position that he doesn't usually play. But again, that's just a nitpick for me. I feel like I can find something to nitpick with Granato's decision-making if you give me enough time. So, but all in all, I like Greenway and Benson together. My only plea is put Middlestat back there and keep that line together because that line, when going, they're like a fourth line that could score, which is really what you want. A line that will wear down the opposition, cycle the puck, keep them hemmed in, but can capitalize on their opportunities.
Yeah, and with Skinner back, you might be able to actually see that
Yeah.
with the lines kind of playing out like we expect them to be when everybody's healthy. But we'll see what happens with the Skinner situation. But again, Middlestat, when he goes down to that third line, it just gives you so much more depth.
And like
and
anyone
scoring
can
chance.
slot in on that first line
Yeah.
wing and have some success, right? Like, so just I don't know.
You want to put Zemgus Girgensons up there, but
I bet you he'd score.
there you go. Well, he did score the other, but regardless, Girgensons, Krebs, and Opposo fourth line, pretty standard. Again, Robinson's been rotating in and out of there, but he's had to be elevated to the third line with Skinner out. So, we already talked about the fourth line already earlier in the show. So we'll move on to the defense and power play real quick. Dahlin and Yoki Haru use the top pair. Power and Eric Johnson, the aforementioned guy that has the worst expected goals on the team. And then Ryan Johnson, Austin's favorite player, and Connor Clifton on the third pair right now with, obviously, Matthias Samuelsson at the time of recording this. Don't know if he's going to be available for that game or not, but from what you see with the decor as it plays out right now, I know you don't want to see Eric Johnson in the top four role, but, what are your thoughts on that decor real quick?
Yeah, I mean, given the injury situation with Samuelsson, there's really not much else Granado can do. I mean, he didn't call it. It was weird that they called it Clegg, not Bryson. Not that Clegg was ever going to play or anything.
And then they sent him back.
Yeah, it was just for the one game. But I don't know. When I saw Clegg's name, I was like, oh, interesting. I don't know. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was something. I don't know. But yeah, with the injury to Samuelsson, the way it's constructed, like, I don't want Clifton and Johnson or Eric Johnson together. I actually don't mind Ryan Johnson and Connor Clifton. Like I said, I actually have enjoyed Connor Clifton. Again, he hasn't been perfect. There's been a lot of errors in his own zone that have led to goals, blah, blah, blah. The Vancouver goal, that did count, was a prime example. He just let Lafferty get behind him in front of Luukkonen, but he has been doing better since he has not been with Eric Johnson. So the six that you're given, I'm not happy to see Owen Power play with Eric Johnson all the time, but you know what? Not much else you can do, and Owen Power has kind of played pretty well considering who he's been beside. So right now, I have no issue with it. When Samuelsson comes back, I'd like to see Power and Ryan Johnson, maybe Samuelsson, Clifton. I don't know, but I do like Dahlin and Yoki Haru together. I will say that I think they should stay together, but though I don't know, the trend has been Yoki Haru's been the odd man out for whatever reason, so I don't really envision that happening as much as I would like it to.
Yeah, and they highlighted him on the MSG broadcast, Henry Yoki Haru, last game, and showed that he is taking a step forward here. And like you mentioned earlier in the episode, whether he's in the long-term plans or not, we've seen that they sign their guys to long-term deals that they want to keep around. So the fact that they haven't signed Yoki Haru yet, remains to be seen what his future is with the team. But as of right now, playing well with Dahlin on that top pair, while Samuelsson is out right now. Quickly on the first power play unit, Alex Tuck, Casey Middlestat, Jack Quinn, interesting up front there, and then you have Tage at the point with Rasmus Dahlin. What have you liked from the power play? They obviously connected against the Sharks with that Alex Tuck goal, but what are you looking to see from this power play a little bit, especially tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks team?
I'm looking for more of the same from that Tuck goal. Look, they used a part of the ice that they don't normally use on the power play. I don't know if it was by design. I don't know if it's because San Jose's power play is literally abysmal. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't just even going back to the Senators game where Tage scored that power play goal at the end of the first period. Like, the way that they scored weren't just one-timers to Tage Thompson. It was they worked the puck to different areas. The Ottawa game, it was Tage showing patience and creating the lane himself and taking the puck to the net and then shooting. We actually did that against San Jose as well. The San Jose goal, Quinn at the half wall to the bumper position and Tuck just rifled a shot. It wasn't half wall up to Dahlin to the other half wall to Tage for a one-timer. It wasn't so vanilla that, Pylon could defend it. I don't know. I was trying to think of something that is not very, but whatever. You know what I'm saying? The puck movement was there. Chicago's also not a good team. Use that puck movement. Use different areas of the ice. Maybe that's what you need to get your power play going, because if your power play gets going, you have a chance to win some of these games. I was there for the Vancouver game. The Middlestat chance that Demko robbed. Another one example of very good puck movement. Up at the top, down to Tage, down to the side of the net, cross ice past the Middlestat. Great puck movement, just a really good save by Demko. It was unfortunate because I thought it was a really good play that was set up a really quality chance. So I'm seeing a little bit more wrinkles here and there. I'm hoping those stay because that's how you're going to generate chances on your power play, and that's how you're going to reopen that one-timer for Tage Thompson.
Yeah, you can't just continue to try to force feed it to him every single time. And if teams are ready for that, they're just going to feast on it and be able to break it up, send it down the ice, and your power play is going to be anemic like it was for the first half of the year again.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm hoping those wrinkles were by design and not just because necessarily they're playing some weaker competition. The Vancouver game, when I saw a couple of plays like that, I got some hope because Vancouver is a good team. So I'm hoping to see more of that, especially, like you said, against Chicago. You're going to need your power play against Tampa Bay. However many opportunities you get, you're going to need to capitalize on those because Tampa Bay is not only a good team, they're a team that you are chasing down. And so you can't let the power play hinder you like that. So really, really crucial to this team going forward that they keep finding a way to improve that power play.
And before we wrap up here, probably 6 games before our next recording, give or take there, Chicago tonight, obviously Tampa Bay coming up on Saturday. That's an afternoon game. Sabres have been playing a lot of afternoon games lately, which is kind of interesting. We never used to see that, especially under the Darcy Regier regime, but they got a couple of those coming up. Regardless, another one against Anaheim a little bit later on in February. But regardless, Chicago tonight, Tampa Bay both at home. And then they go on the road, as you mentioned, the California road trip, Anaheim, LA, San Jose. The San Jose is a 4 o'clock start, so it's 1 o'clock local there in San Jose next Saturday. And then back at home to the Dallas Stars on February 6th. So if you're looking at that, Austin, out of a possible 12 points, I think you said earlier, 4-1-1, so you're probably expecting at least 8 of 12 points here.
Yeah, so just to close out January, because I think Dallas is – I didn't really project that one. That's probably a loss, if I'm being honest. Dallas is really good. But if we're projecting out the last 5 games, you have to beat Chicago. Like, no excuse. You can't lose to the Chicago Blackhawks. Tampa Bay, I think bare minimum you need a point because you're chasing them in the lineup. You can't.
And it's a divisional game.
Right? That's what I mean. Like, you can't just lose that game in regulation. I think you need to win it, but bare minimum a point. Anaheim, no disrespect to them. Buffalo, you have to beat them. If you're turning the season around, you beat the Anaheim Ducks. LA, I have marked down as a regulation loss. I don't know. That's just, I've had it marked down as a loss since I previewed the month. They're a good team. Buffalo either lights them up or gets shut out by them. It just feels like that's what has been with LA the last couple of years. Either they're not scoring or they're scoring 6. So we'll see. And then San Jose again. Again, no disrespect to San Jose. The game the other day was very boring at the start, but the last 5-10 minutes of the third period, Buffalo started to play the way that they should have been playing against San Jose, and they dominated play. Do that right from the beginning. So you find a way to get 7 out of the next 10 points. You're at 49 points if you do that. The season's not saved, it's not salvaged, but it looks a hell of a lot more optimistic than it does now. So to me, it's 3-1-1 to close out this month. That would give the Sabres 7 wins. I said they needed to win 8 in the month of January for me to be back in. But if they find a way to go 3-1-1, they get that 7, and they get 1 loser point there. I can tell myself that, hey, there's a pulse, which I think is really all I'm asking for right now is give me a pulse because you might be different than me, but the Sabres being so deflating this year has made my interest in NHL hockey this year even start to deflate a little bit, which is the first time that's happened in my entire life, and I don't like it.
Yeah, well, it doesn't help that the Bills are continuing on in the playoffs for you right now, so I'm sure that takes away from it right now. But
the Bills have been good for the last 5 years.
Oh, okay, all right, well,
good enough. No, the Bills have made the playoffs for the last 5 years. I just the Sabres have sucked. I've still enjoyed watching hockey. I think it's this year, honestly, because I expected stuff from the Sabres this year.
Yeah, fair point.
How can I watch an Eastern Conference game knowing that, rooting for Detroit to lose, but I know Buffalo's probably going to lose the next day anyway, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, they just need to gain some ground here and make it interesting because we could have a whole other outlook by the next time we record here.
That's what I mean.
Whether they should probably sell at the deadline, but again, we talked about it going into this month. This is a very winnable stretch of games here, and if you can't beat a lot of these teams, then you really shouldn't even be in the playoff conversation. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and like I was just saying, if they go 3-1-1, that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, so 7. 3-1, 11 game stretch. That's pretty good. That would be a pretty good month. 7-3-1.
We'll see if they can get there, but That's going to wrap up another episode of Sabres Semantics right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Brandon Caputo and Austin Broad have been with you guys. Make sure to follow the podcast on X at Sabres Semantics. And thank you to those today watching in on-demand audio, or listening in on-demand audio, and watching in video form on YouTube. So until next time, this has been another episode of Sabres Semantics on the Armchair GM Sports Network, proudly brought to you by J&L Flooring. And we'll talk to you again very soon. You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.